So we get back to the Yoga Sutras, chapter 1, verse 8. We are still talking about the fluctuations of the Vrittaya. We are still talking about the fluctuations of the Chitta. So the last one was about what is valid knowledge or what is valid knowing and how that is all dependent on context. So that apparently has caused a lot of turmoil in people. So, Yoga Sutra chapter 1 verse 8, now we are talking about Viparaya. Now, Viparaya was the perverse understanding or the misconception. Yeah, when we talked about the 5 fluctuations, one of the 5 fluctuations was Viparaya, the perverse understanding or the misconception. So, he is now explaining what is perverse understanding, what is misconception. And again, this is one of those verses where the meaning seems obvious, so most commentators glide over it. And you know me, the minute I see that, I'm like, okay, Patanjali didn't write something for time pass or to fatten his book. If he writes it, there must be a reason to it. So, Viparaya mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtam. Viparaya consists of mithya jnanam atadrupa. Tad means that, atad means not that form. Mithya jnanam, mithya and jnanam, we'll come to those two words because very obviously it can mean false knowledge, which is fine, which is a reasonable, but we'll come, there's some fun with those words. Mithya jnanam, atadrupa, not the form, the misconception, the misperception, the false understanding, the unreal or the perverse understanding can come because we confuse forms, we confuse rupas. Atadrupa, pratishtatam, that which is standing, jo pratisht hai, prana pratishta we call it, to fix it, to stand it, to make it. So the normal thing is illusionary or erroneous knowledge is based on non-fact or the non-real. Because we are confusing something that is not factual and not pratishthit. It is neither real nor is it factual. It is not obvious, it is not in front of you. Therefore, we get into this viparaya. Error hai, misconception hai. We mistake one thing for the other. Atad rupa. Now, the classical example in the Sanskrit Vedantic perspective, everybody knows it, the snake and the rope. In the dark, you mistake the rope for the snake. You get the fear and the worry and all that comes from the snake. This is, even in the yogic schools, they know this is the most worn out cliche, Yeah. When W. Somerset Maugham came to India in the 1920s, he had written a very, very interesting book on India, very insightful book on India. And he actually said that your heart sinks within you when they start up the snake and the rope again. But because he was a genius, he said, but if that is a classical illustration of what they consider to be a true formulation of consciousness, why not? So he didn't just dismiss it as, look at these boars, they are just sarpa rajju, rajju sarpa, the two, the rajju is the rope and the sarpa is that is a classic example of the atadrupa, that something is not its own form. You see a snake or you confuse the forms. The forms are unclear, so you confuse the rope with the snake. So atadrupa, so illusionary, erroneous. It is not a fact, it is not real. Does the thing stand on its own? That is what it means by pratishtatam. When you say this is an argument or you say this is a reason, this is a convincing reason, this is why I hold something to be pratishtatam. Does it stand on its own or is it just something that you built up from your imagination? Why is it important that you don't, if it is helping you, why is it important that you identify it as a false belief or a belief that is a misunderstood one or something that you have mistaken or misconception? Why is it? It is helping you. You cannot base your progress on error. You cannot grow from error to error. You can grow from error to truth. You can grow from error to reality. You cannot grow from error to error, though if you are in the new age, I suppose you can. there is there is a whole there is a whole aspect of consciousness which multiplies and magnifies errors until it swallows people. If you want to come to that consciousness of the drashtu, you want to come to the consciousness of the seer, you want to come to that authentic consciousness, you want to come to that authentic awareness, if all your initial steps are erroneous, if all your initial conclusions are erroneous, or misconceptions, or misperceptions, or confusing one thing for the other, your ultimate state, no matter how pleasing, no matter how gratifying to the ego, is also going to be erroneous. Now, just because something is erroneous doesn't mean it doesn't have power. Wrong notions can endure, and wrong notions, people can act on those wrong notions for a long, long time. But what he is saying is, if you really want to come to that state of yoga, if you really want to come to yoga chitta vritti nirodha, you really want to be in actual yoga, you have to be very clear that you are not confusing forms, you are not confusing what is manifest and obvious, you are not confusing what is established with your own desires, because what is pratisht can also be a philosophy, what is pratisht can also be a spiritual experience. Temples are also pratish, murti is also pratishta. No? Arguments can be, because something, agama, the argument from tradition, yes, last time we spoke about that. What he is saying is actually quite fearsome. What he is saying is, you might be getting somewhere and it might all be wrong. It might all be erroneous, it might all be confusing, it might all be false premises. Atadrupa, not its own form, not its own authentic form. You might be confusing this stage, this experience, this what you are currently undergoing with something else. That is why it is viparaya, perverse understanding, misconception. It is something well established, it is pratishtam. Just because something is well established doesn't mean it is true. It might be useful, it might be effective, it might be something that people believe in because that is the tradition, that is the culture, it has always been done this way, but that doesn't mean that it is the truth. And he is not concerned with, in the end, he is not concerned with what works, he is concerned with what is authentic. The reason why this happens is because if you are proceeding on false premises or false understandings, they cause false feeling, false thoughts. So your chitta is then polluted. Yesterday I had gone to meet my guru and there was some talk about some peculiar experience that some lady had, and she gave a TED talk where she had an accident, and when she recovered from that accident, her consciousness was no longer located in her body, her consciousness was located out of her body. and basically how that transformed her, because she learned not to take things personally, because the people were abusive. She was like, they are speaking to that body, but I am not that body, you know. So they were all, the people there were all very excited and thinking it was something very brilliant. And I said, look, this is a very sort of normal thing in yoga. I used to, when I was in Pune, I used to regularly call up and say that last 2 days my consciousness is here, because it is known when it goes out of the body like that, it above the shoulder to the right of the head. That's where it goes. It's a very normal yogic experience, and it is not any sign of great spiritual growth or something. It is only showing you that what you consider to be your personality is not a embodiment limitation, not a mind limitation, not an emotion limitation. Your consciousness can actually step outside what you consider to be, you know. So when it steps out, you lose that atadrupa, you know. It has actually become, it actually becomes atadrupa, that, oh, this thing is actually not me, it's just a 70-year loan from the planet, you know, or an 80-year loan from the tattvas, you know. This is not me. This understanding that I have, that this is me, and the I that experiences, feels and grows resides in the body, again it is not, because even your pratishtam is lost then, you know. You are no longer pratishthit, your consciousness is no longer pratishthit in your, here, it is here. So of course there was one person who, you know, one of those people who love asking questions, not because they want to learn anything, but because they want to ask questions, you know. The joy comes in asking the question. So that person immediately wanted to know, so because I had read it in Santosh's book, a similar kind of experience, I didn't freak out when it happened to me, but no, it's abnormal. No matter what you say or think about it, it's abnormal. So thing was, oh, but because you had read about it, you were okay. I said, no, I was not okay. It was a very frightening experience. Like, but why? You know, you read about it, so you should. I said, okay. You read about being attacked by a tiger, and the tiger is actually attacking you. Are they? You know? Now, again, this is a classic example of viparaya, where because you have the conceptual knowledge, or because you have the mind understanding of the phenomena, when the phenomena actually transpires in your own body, see the kind of assumption, that is what Patanjali is saying. We make these series of assumptions, we make these series of judgments, we make these series of conceptual blunders. And what happens to you has to be looked at authentically without all these mind games around it. The real tragedy is she didn't understand what I meant by the difference between these two, because everybody was busy laughing. That is my problem. I cannot say any of these things without making a joke of it. But it was such an example to me, that viparaya, you know, the misconception that merely because you've read about it, therefore here is where the break has happened. Not that it helps you through the experience, therefore the experience is not impactful, or therefore the experience is not scary. What do you mean? What you consider to be yourself is now out here. You're watching yourself go to the shop, get into the auto, pay money in the it's, what do you mean that's okay because you've seen it in a book? You are literally out of your mind. What do you mean by saying it is okay? No. You know, because he fine tunes these things, he fine tunes human behavior, he fine tunes these understanding to such an extent that merely because you know about it doesn't mean that it is authentic for you, doesn't mean that it is true for you. That is why he puts mithya jnanam, viparaya mithya jnanam. Atadrupa and Pratishtatama are not that important. Mithya Jnanam. Now, Gyan is always very important, and we look at it as, oh, Gyan is the. But he says Mithya Jnanam, Gyan can be Mithya. This is again an example of Mithya Jnanam. Now, somebody like Gurdjieff, I have spoken about Gurdjieff. He was a very fierce, very, very fierce teacher. And he used to say, if you do not personally know it and experience it, to that extent it is a lie. It was a method of teaching, of course, which is why he used to do it. He used to say, when you say that your body temperature is 98.6 or whatever, do you actually know it, or are you just repeating what you heard from everybody else? Have you personally checked that? When you say this is how the heart works, do you really personally know that is how the heart works? Have you done any dissection on your own? Or have you just read it from the book? And he used to be so fierce, he would say that is a lie. If it is not within your knowledge and your experience, both have to be present, it is not really authentic. It is still one step removed. So he would never allow people to say that I know unless they really know. You had to say it is universally held, or the books say, or the masters say. He wouldn't allow you to he wouldn't allow you to I know. No, you don't know. Now that is of course training. That is training in what Patanjali is saying. Don't go into the vipraya, don't go into the delusion. Because once you begin to say I know, when all you have done is read about it, trouble has begun. Or somebody told you, which is even worse. Yeah, because somebody with authority, agama, somebody, family member or teacher or somebody told you, have you experienced? So in great many spiritual organizations, they lock up the books for this reason, because people will open the books and start parroting. Instead of having any kind of real genuine knowledge or genuine experience, the two have to be together. That is then the Swarupam, no? the authentic. Mithya Jnanam. Now this phrase, because there is a very famous Sanskrit saying, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The foundational consciousness alone is the truth. The world is Mithya. So Mithya doesn't mean lie, because yogis never say that the world does not exist, though some Mayavadi types do say so, and even that with a lot of. They don't say that the world does not exist. What they say, when we say Mithya, it means what you think is the nature of reality may not be the actual. What you conceive about it, your ideas about it, may not be the truth, may not be the authentic experience. Mithya Jnanam. Now the problem is, because knowledge is now available, people can create an illusion, people can create a simulacrum of authenticity or knowledge. You've read a ton of books, you can quote all the lines perfectly. Other people may mistake that as being some kind of genuine attainment. Other people may mistake that as being some kind of genuine competence. I am not speaking only from spirituality. In all areas of life, it might not be that the person has the actual gyan. Have you known, have you experienced? Maybe the person only has known, or maybe a person has only. So in that word jnanam, there is always that I am speaking from my experience, not from my knowledge and my experience. And very often you can have experiences which are deceptive also. You know, and in spirituality, unfortunately, spirituality which requires the highest level of honesty with the self is the greatest amounts of self delusion and self bullshitting happen over there in the spiritual fields. You know, the minute somebody says, I get guidance, I know, okay, viparaya. You know, because what is the nature of that guidance? If you ask them, it's always some kind of great master from the past, and that person is giving praise only. That you are unique, you are special, you are so valuable to the universe. Whereas real guidance in the yogic tradition, it is known, they have no time and patience to build your ego up. If there is a genuine communication from a higher consciousness master, it always comes with work to do. You need to do this. It always comes with additional responsibility. So any kind of communication that is ego massage is ruled out completely. What happens? I've spoken extensively about that. I still have to speak about it because those are all vital beings. Those are false deluders. They come and they pretend to be ascended masters, and you are in, because deep in every human's heart, it takes a lot of psychological maturity to overcome it. Deep in every human's heart, there is the belief the rules don't apply to me. Yeah, I am the exception. For me, the hard work, the mistakes, the stumbling, all those things don't. I will take the rocket route to salvation. It takes a lot of maturity to come to that stage where you have to be careful. It takes a lot of maturity to not be falsely humble. False humility is just as bad because that is also a viparaya, that is also a perverse delusion. If you have attained something, don't lie about it or don't pretend that, oh no, I am such a. On the other hand, just because you have attained, don't think you can't come tumbling down. Just yesterday I spoke about it. अरे ब्रह्म ऋषि से होता नहीं था, तुम किस खेत के मूली हो यार. Even they have bad days. So Mithya Jnanam is actually very, very important in today's context because the entire New Age and specifically the PLR aspect of the New Age, the past life regression, is pure and simple Mithya Jnanam. It is as if these lower level entities have thrown a permanent ongoing party for themselves. And in yoga, it is well understood, okay, so there was past life connection. What the hell does it matter at this moment? This life now, the relationships you have, the skill, competence, ability you have to work with that. It does not matter whether you were a personal chamchi to Queen Nefertiti in, or one of the generals of Ramses the Great. अभी तो नहीं हो रहा है ना. At this moment it is not happening. No. What are you doing at this moment? But no, they are so enthralled, and the word is enthrall. Thrall means to make a slave. When you mentally and emotionally make somebody a slave, that is to enthrall somebody. They are so enthralled by that sense of there were special things happening to me in the past. Because in this lifetime, deep in their heart, they know nothing's going to happen. Mithya Jnanam, and it is a knowledge of a sort because that knowledge gives certain confidence, it gives certain ability to move, it is certain impressive kind of thing, but Mithya Jnanam, it comes right down to not the truth. Mithya is not even a lie or it is not even falsity. Mithya only means not the truth. It is a partial thing. It is a reality. But it may not be the perceptually we are taking in one kind of, because all of us have certain limitations. We have limitations of culture, limitations of intellect, limitations of education. So all those become filters. How we process something that is given to us is entirely dependent on our personality and our experiences, and those are all filters, which is why eyewitness testimony is worthless, because 10 people see the same thing and it's like 10 different stories every time, because everybody is processing from their mithya, in that sense, not the full truth. Everybody is processing from their limitation, their filters. Mithya Jnanam, what he is saying is, merely because you've accumulated a ton of knowledge and even a ton of experience, that might not be the real deal. Because you look at the old historical ancient texts, and even somebody like Isaac Newton, who is universally regarded as one of the greatest geniuses who ever lived, but his scientific output was hardly 10-15% of his. Most of his writings were about Kabbalah and mysticism, and he was obsessed with one particular thing. He wanted to find the exact dimensions of Solomon's temple. Volume after volume are his speculation. Now, does that mean that whatever Isaac Newton did is to be dismissed? Not at all. Whatever is valuable is valuable. But whatever was his monomania, and this was all kept very secret. It's only now that all these things are coming out. The scientists knew it. They would see, they would open the trunk with his books in it. They would look at it and they would all go, because he's so unscientific. They say that he was the last magician and the first scientist. He had a magical mind. He was a magic thinker. Now it is all coming. There are 2 documentaries also, that he was quite a lunatic person. Newton was just quite. He was not sane, certainly, not in any normal sense. His mind was so different that he was not in any. There's that famous story of his dog Diamond. He knocked over his calculations of a few years into the fire, and he didn't get angry at that dog. He only patted him and said, "You don't know what you have done." So, that also is not, most people would at least lose their temper a little bit, yell at the dog, whatever, and you don't know what you've done. So we even know the name of the dog, because so he was certainly an unusual person, but he was also an abnormal person. He was not a. Now, his speculations along the scientific lines have proved to be accurate. Whatever he did, but his speculations and all those magical lines have proved to be embarrassments. So Isaac Newton, who is like one of the most brilliant people the world has ever seen, one of the most valuable people the world has ever seen, even he was a bhandar of Mithya Jnanam. And that is the reason why our Patanjali was very, very clever. Jada bola nahi. He didn't expand things and get trapped. He just compressed everything into the sutras, exploded them and let it be, because you need to be careful. And in a spiritual process, that is why I keep coming, you need parampara, you need lineage. You need experienced people to tell you, no, you are under delusion. No, this is just your imagination running wild, because inevitably it happens. You start doing some process, some meditation, some sadhana, and the 2 lower chakras, the Shakti starts moving, and megalomania, full blast. I am the goddess. I will save the world. I will do this. I will create this. That. So at that time, the experienced people have to calm them down. Like, no, energy is moving. No need to get excited. Much more is happening in future. Mithya Jnanam again, because is what that person experiencing not true? Is what the person feeling not true? But it's nevertheless not authentic. No? It is authentic for, so going by your own personal perceptions is to say that my opinions are more valuable than anybody else's. That is not a very sane thing to say. The possibility that you may be in error has to be always kept in mind. That is a scientific principle, but it's also a yogic principle, because here he is hammering away at it. No? Vrittaya, he just didn't say the 5 fluctuations of mind, then he's starting to open them out further and further and further. All of which are, you might be mistaken in what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you consider is your, at the moment, your place on the hierarchy, what you have attained, and he's constantly saying, you might be mistaken, you might be mistaken. So that sense of discrimination, that sense of viveka has to be awake all the time, otherwise you will go derailed. And this, the temptations for derailment in spirituality are so great, because some little attainment comes immediately, admiration also comes. Yeah? From the outside world there is so much admiration. Then you become pratishtam in your error. You start standing in your error, because now there is, you have committed yourself to that publicly. There are people who have learnt that, yeah, maybe an organization, and that is what the scientists were doing. They were, a certain image had been created of Newton, and they didn't want the other reality to come, because he was now pratishtam in one. Viparaya ho raha tha at that time also. Is very interesting. See, it doesn't matter to me. He is allowed. Somebody is a genius like Newton. He is allowed to be as cranky as he wants. He can do whatever he wants. I don't care. But the fact of the matter is, even Newton could be wrong and was wrong. The problem we make is, we think that if a person has some valuable attainment or some valuable breakthrough in consciousness, in all dimensions, therefore that person becomes the last word. No. Nowhere has that been said in yoga. And sensible yogis never say that about themselves, but they don't need to, because disciples are there to say it. No? That all knowledge flows from our teacher alone, and our teacher has the access to all the dimensions, and you hear that nonsense long enough and you start believing it. It's very, very difficult to keep that balance. It's very difficult to keep that balance between, this is my authentic attainment, this is my authentic understanding, this is my authentic viveka, and this is all the human limitations that I come with. Why is Patanjali wasting so much time? He put the 5 fluctuations of mind, and then he is going into each one of them in depth, because he must have realized, oh dear God, the human being, how many ways to delude oneself, Let us at least collect and gather the main possibilities and leave it for people, The PLR people even tried to get Patanjali on their side. They apparently lift some verse out of context and they say, this means past life. And I'm like, Sanskrit jaake pehle seekho. So it's actually, in that sense, it's not a difficult verse to comprehend. But in the terms of what it implies, it's a very, very important verse. You have to keep holding that in front of your mind, because I will go into Vipraya. That's not a good thing. Danger, baapre. But here's the thing about yoga, it is so uncompromising. It does not let off merely because you are doing well, or okay, let us accommodate. No. You won't make it. You will come to interesting places, but you won't make it to that point of enlightenment and liberation if you allow all this to rattle around inside you. It's very uncompromising that way, which is the reason why again this book is not popular, because depression hota hi hai. People look at this book and like, yeah, we will do bhajans, we will do, yeah, we will go to pilgrimage, we will read Bhagavad Gita. All that might also be part of your vipraya. Mithya Gyanam. Okay? Right? All right. Sarvam Shama.